Well, welcome everybody. This week's podcast is a bit different. It is a webinar replay of the Getting Ready for Next Year transition webinar. Now, do not stop this recording if you think, well, I'm not transitioning a child. For a child on the autism spectrum and with neurodiversity, moving from one classroom to another can be as big as moving from one school to another. Children with autism spectrum, one of the biggest challenges we have is what's called their adaptability or generalization. That you teach something in one spot and they can't move it to another spot, which means this is why people get so much behavior and get so frustrated. They should know this. Well, no, because every classroom looks visually different. So if they've learned something visually in one place, they mightn't be able to do it in another place. For the rest of us, if we take our children somewhere new, like to a new movie, our children can adapt. But talk to parents of children with autism spectrum and they'll tell you if they go to a new movie, that can cause a meltdown. Even if same cinema, same popcorn, same Pepsi, guess what? Different movie comes on, boom. So that's our problem solving and adaptability. So please listen. I promise there'll be tips for you whether you are doing a small or a big transition. And I would love you to join me for a live virtual workshop. The more we prepare, the better we can support our students. I truly believe that teachers should do the training now if we know they're getting a student next year, and teacher assistants. It's so important we prepare educators by giving them the tools and understanding. So many teachers do my course in term one and say, I wish I'd had this at the start of the year because I could have set this child and myself up for success. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of parents, go to teachers, go to schools now and say, please, can the teacher for next year do the training, or the teacher aide do the training? I have got 2 dates coming up in November, and even better, I've put one on January 19, which means teachers can do it on their professional learning day if they're in Queensland, or the rest of Australia, you're welcome to join and do it before you go back. So you don't have relief staff. It's going to be fast moving, interactive, full day. I'm going to send out show bags. It's going to be a fun day of training to start the year. I cannot tell you how many staff say to me, best training they ever did. So whether you're a teacher, teacher assistant, whatever your role, please think about doing some training in November. Or if you're too busy in November, think about January 19 joining me. You can join in your jammies or in your deck chair, wherever you are, anywhere. You can zoom in from anywhere. Can't wait to see you then. And remember, the more we prepare the child, the less behavior, but the more we prepare the teaching and teaching staff and educators and teacher assistants, the less behavior. It's all about putting in place proactive strategies, not reactive strategies. And so often everyone puts things in far too late. Anyway, enjoy the webinar replay. Hope to see you soon on Zoom. Oh, and if those dates don't work, remember you can do the online course anytime on demand, wherever you want. Just depends how you prefer to learn. Okay, look forward to seeing you soon. Hi everyone, welcome to the Sue Larkey podcast. As I always say, you have to embrace difference to make a difference. Let's dive into today's podcast. Hour of Power. Thank you everyone who sent in your questions. I spent a couple of hours this morning going through your questions. I always like to hear what you've tried, what your questions are, and make sure that we cover everything in this hour. Now, I know a big welcome to Karen, Helen A, Helen W, Jean, Julie, Belinda, and all my graduates, because lots of you actually have already done lots of my courses and I love seeing that you're coming back for more. But some of you are new, so welcome first timers. But I love to know what courses you've done. So we're just going to do a little poll and find out which courses you've done. I know some of you have done more than one, so I thought just choose the last course that you've done. So share in the poll, choose which course you've done. I love seeing. And once you've clicked on that, those of you that are my graduates, can you share in the chat your favorite course? Which has been your this was my favorite, recommend it. Which ones you're like, absolutely must do. Oh, welcome from the APY. Love that. Sorry, you missed our little asking what country everyone was from. I do that before, so I hope you'll hear from that. The face-to-face training centre at your centre. Oh, I loved coming. It was so good. Oh, I love it. Cowra. I had such a lovely time in Cowra. Diane and I went to the Cowra pub the night before. We had a little bit of a girls' road trip. It was so good. And actually, this is completely off topic, but there was a huge problem with the flights that night, and I made lots of friends at the local aeroplane club on a Friday night. If you're ever looking for somewhere to go on a Friday night in Orange, the guys out there are gorgeous. They gave us drinks and platters of food while we were waiting for our plane. It was just the cutest thing. Okay, sorry, got distracted with that. So we have 26% of you have done my course, 14% Tony Atwood. So if you're ever wondering, Tony's a psychologist. So he does what is autism spectrum and neurodiversity. I'm a teacher. I do what to do. Early childhood, welcome early childhood. So important you prepare children for school. Temple Grandin, 6%. Teacher assistants, angels, welcome. You know I call you angels. And I've got a new course coming for you. I just recorded it last week with Anna Tullemans, who I wrote the red and blue teacher assistant books with, all on behaviour. And honestly, it is so good. I can't wait to share it with you. I'm just getting it all together. Emotional regulation, 46% of you first timers. Welcome, 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 all of our first timers. Now, first timers, I do apologise. I talk really fast, but I promise it'll be worth it, how fast I talk. So what I thought, why don't we make our first prize? Now, do not put your hand up. If you, I'm going to choose someone to win a course, okay? And you can choose any of my courses. If you're not sure what courses are available, I think they're in your handout or in the ebook. I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, I think they're in the handout. Oh, if not, I will send you a link so you know. But anyway, let me choose some people. Give me a wave if you'd like to win a course. Megan Daly, you are a winner. You can choose any course. I love it. Give me a wave. Marion Soubra, I think Soubr. Yay! Okay. Andrew Simons, even though I don't think your name is Andrew Simons, but that's okay. Don't put your hand up, guys, because it moves all my people. So just wave yeah, excellent. Love. I love the wave. Mary Terrence something. So 3 courses to give away. So, and you can join me for the live virtual if you prefer to learn like this. And if you join me for that, send out a show bag. Look at all those little goodies. And if you want to win a course, I don't normally send these to New Zealand, but if you're on today, and I will personally send you those packs because they're a little bit tricky. I have to fill in too much paperwork and I don't like paperwork. But if one of you are a winner and you want to win that course, I'll definitely do that for you. So, I'm very excited. On January 19th, I'm a little bit too excited about everything today. On January 19th, I have decided to do a professional learning day before everyone starts next year because so many schools just haven't got enough relief staff. So I thought that way, if you can't get relief staff at the end of this year, you can join me on January 19th. And Queensland, that's a professional learning day for you anyway. And I'll send out the packs. I'm thinking I'm going to add in extra little toys if seeing it's the start of the year. So anyway, hope you can join me for one of those. And the winners, if you just email Andrew and let him know which course, and if you want to join me for the live virtual, can't wait to see you then. Okay, so the other thing, if you haven't already printed your handout out, I'd recommend grab your phone. You can actually go over this little QR code and then you've got the handout ready so that you don't have to take too many notes this afternoon. So all you have to do is get your phone and your camera, hover over that little QR code, and boom, you've got the handout on your phone. So cool, right? I love QR codes. They make life so easy. So if you haven't got the handout, the reason I recommend you print that out, there are so many tips and strategies, and I know I'm going to talk really fast. Danielle, there is a very important thing in there for you. It is a 1-pager on getting ready from transition to secondary. So there's a must-do list, an ideal to do, and extra for great success. And I just think that is a really helpful checklist. Anyone here from secondary, this is going to be really handy for you, okay? But in the ebook, which is different to the handout, there are even more tips for transitioning, just things like children starting school. There's things like making sure parents don't go and buy a new lunchbox that the child doesn't know how to undo, you know, buying the uniforms now. Anna Tullermans, who I've just recorded that teacher assistant new course with Daniel, she would go into the secondhand uniform shop because the secondhand uniforms have been washed and they've got rid of all the scratchiness. So she would buy heaps of secondhand uniforms, and if she couldn't get them in his size, she always washed his clothes 6 times to soften them. So remember the sensory, for many of our children, the sensory of the new uniforms. Preschool teachers, my kids, they went to a KU here in Chatswood, most fantastic staff. And what they would do, the children would actually, on the last few weeks of preschool, wear their uniforms. Now, they did this for a few reasons. Visually, so the children knew who was going to school with them. Primary school, you can do this for secondary too, so they can see who else visually is going to the same school. Preschool to early childhood to primary. They also, at my kids' KU, sat the kids in those groups to eat lunch together and morning tea and started doing group work, so the children got to know each other. And this is so important. They took photos of children all going to school together. For many of my children with neurodiversity, this really helps with their anxiety, visually seeing, wearing the uniform. The other thing for all year groups, can you write this down because so many people make this mistake? Parents go and buy new school shoes to start school or the new school year. Go and get them now, and maybe Black Friday's coming up. They'll be on sale. So with everything going up, it'll be cheaper to buy them Black Friday. Get ready, get the shoes now. And the reason for that is the children need to wear them in before they start the new school year. Too many changes that first day. New uniform, new shoes. Children who move from primary to secondary, they've often gone from wearing runners to wearing big, heavy leather shoes. So let's get the children used to the shoes. They might need to desensitize. So maybe just wear them for half an hour, slowly wear them in. So, and thank you, buy a size up. I agree. And if you have any trouble with sizing your children, when I worked in the autism school, we had a beautiful little shoe shop close to the school. And the guy there, we would draw around the children's feet and take in the drawing of the feet, and he would fit from, bless him, Theo, he was just beautiful. He would use that cutout of the children's feet and lay it down in that silver thing. He's like, you don't need to bring the children in, Sue. We can work out their sizes. You know, if you find the right people, it can make the world of difference. So I highly recommend that you download the ebook as well with extra tips like those. Now, you are in the right spot. Even if you are getting a new student next year, you don't know anything about the student, you are passing on a student, you're a parent or carer. A parent asked me last night on Facebook, is this for me? Yes, absolutely. And I know we'll have lots of parents and carers listening to the podcast because I'll put this out as a replay on the podcast too. Teacher assistants, you play such an important role in transition. So I'll come back to you. Allied health professional. And also, some of my neurodiverse students love to listen and watch this to get ideas about how to help them transition. So you are in the right spot. No matter why you're here today, I've got you covered. Because transition includes just moving from one class level to the next. Often people forget, it's not just the preschool to primary to secondary. For some of my children, moving just to a new class is like a whole new universe, yes? And for some of my children who are going post-school, in the ebook, I've got some great getting ready for work tips. And one of them is to go and do some volunteer work over the summer holidays, you know, actually getting them used to working. And the advantage of volunteering, when they're not paying you, actually you can learn some really good practices but not have that stress and from the boss paying you too. So, Caroline, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. You had difficulty with transition last year, and I really feel for you guys, and I appreciate you letting me know that. And the child had to go back to the class that they had the year before. So I'm hoping you'll get some new tips today. Belinda, you are preparing your child to move from one year to the next. You're going to get lots of key tips. Karen, preparing year sevens. That is a big job. The reason for that is so many year sevens. There's like the anxiety of all the children. There's a lot of hype about moving to year seven. Tell me in the chat, give me a yes if you remember the hype about moving to year seven yourself. Give me a yes if you're like, oh, I just remember, and who's going to what school and all the anxiety around that. And I still remember that. And my daughter Eliza, when she transitioned from, and none of my children are on the spectrum, but it's still a big step. I remember my eldest moving to secondary. It was a big step for us as parents because we'd been very involved in the primary school, and secondary was more hands off, catching the train. If we picked them up, they're way away from the school. Like, there's not that getting out, meeting other parents. It's a big transition for parents and for children, and I think we need to remember that. And Helen A., how to make it stress-free. I am hoping that this is going to make it stress-free, that I'm going to give you so many tips and strategies to make it stress-free. So if you haven't downloaded the ebook, I'd recommend you do it. Now, when I went on the website today, one link went to the correct ebook, which looks like this for this year, okay? And I would recommend you print it out. Looks like that. But one of the links on there went to last year's, and I apologize about that. If you got the wrong one, again, you can hover your phone over that. The link will be with the replay. I'm not really referring to it this afternoon. It's just more tips and strategies to look at and to share with other people, actually. So I apologize if you got the wrong one. Just make sure it looked like that. That's what the transition ebook looked like this year, because I added lots more tips. But the one page I would love, 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 love all of you to print out and put up in your staff rooms or share is this one. It's the one with all the acronyms and abbreviations. It looks pretty in color, but I printed it out in black and white. So often when teachers get a new child and there's a report and there's all these acronyms, I mean, what do they mean? There's so many new ones, and this page is going to actually be for a teacher getting a new child in their class. I love the word neurodiversity because most of my students have more than one diagnosis. And if you look on here, it's got all of them. I've now added in PDA, which we're hearing more and more about. So I think that is invaluable to hand on to staff to let them know about this child, but also because so many new acronyms are coming out, it's hard to keep up. So I've made that look a beautiful little one-pager visual. If you haven't got the ebook, I would recommend print that out and share it with staff and teachers, teacher aides. I think maybe put it in your programming folder, because when you get new students next year, you'll be like, okay, what do all these ones mean? Because I am seeing some really interesting ones myself. So as I say, I love the word neurodiversity. I think neurodiversity is a fabulous word. There is a lot of controversy around names and which names. Is it child with autism, autistic child? The way I look at it, my birth name is Susan. I like to be called Sue. I always ask people their personal preference. I can assure you, if I write on Facebook autistic child, I'll have people rage about that. And then if I put child with autism, people will rage about that. It's a personal preference. There isn't a World Health Organization way to say it. And I follow many people with a lived experience, and they all have very different opinions. So the way I look at it, it's really about understanding every person's preference. Just like I'm called Susan on my birth certificate, I prefer Sue. So ask the families, and if the young people can tell you themselves, ask them what they would prefer: neurodiversity, neurodivergent, autism spectrum, whatever the person likes. Give me a thumbs up if that makes sense. It's just a personal preference. Thank you, Charlotte. I really appreciate that. Now, here's the thing. Kari, Ange, Helen, and Skititi. I agree. How do we get everyone on the same page? What is the key information people need? How do we know what to try? What's worked in the past? So often I see these massive folders of information and I've got 30 kids in my class. I haven't got time to read all that. It is exhausting, and half the time this is old information. It's irrelevant. It's not helpful. It doesn't actually tell me key things about that child, like can they ask for help? Do they need the toilet? It might be how they did in maths. Well, personally, when I'm setting up my classroom, I want to know more. Do they calm by taking a movement break, or do they calm by needing a tent? I need to know these things. So nod your head if you know what I'm saying. Like, a lot of the information we get actually isn't helpful. So when I worked at Western Autistic School, my role was sort of as an outreach teacher. And I worked with about 500 children in different schools. I'd drive all over the Western districts and the western part of Melbourne. And I came up with this neurodiversity, what was it called, autism profile back then. And then we changed it to autism spectrum. Then we changed it to autism spectrum disorder and Asperger's, all those terms. So that's all changed. And every year I update this. And I've been updating this for 20 years. And this year I've changed this to say neurodiversity because I love that word. And it's an individual student profile. The other thing I've added in this year, like last year, I added in how did children return, or the year before, how did children return from lockdowns and COVID? I've taken that out. Luckily, we don't need that this year, right? So every year I update it depending what's happening. But this year I've added in interoception. So I've added in, do they know they need toilet, food, drink? Are there any sensory likes and dislikes? Is there anything that's helped them regulate their senses? Have they seen an occupational therapist? What are their recommendations? Because with NDIS, I'm seeing more and more children who actually are getting those supports and getting some help. So I would really recommend, if you are wondering what information, this is a key document and it's on the page where you were originally sent and with the replay page, okay? So I recommend that, and I will show you in a minute what I get the children to do. And the reason that I recommend that is every child is different. Just saying you've got a child with ASD means nothing. We need to know what that child, can that child ask for help? Do they have any friends in the class? Because I tell you, I'm going to sit them with those friends the first day, What are the key information I need to know about this child? The other thing I wish I'd known 30 years ago, and I know lots of you have done lots of my courses and heard me say this, but it's just a reminder. To know someone with autism is not to know autism. Strategies wear out. Not every strategy works for everybody. But in my experience, most strategies work for 1 in 10 children. And when we find that one strategy, it makes a world of difference. But for example, how I said for Danielle that these are my must do. In my experience, these are my golden 1 in 10. This works for all my kids. Some of these will work and these, not all will work. So it just depends. The child might be catching a bus to school, so the information's not relevant. So they might be being driven or catching a train. So I really think it's about understanding that individual child. And I wish I could climb in a child's shoes and, really understand them. But that is what I'm trying to help you with today, to understand that individual child's shoes. Now, because strategies only work for 1 in 10 children, that is why all of my books actually have hundreds of ideas. And if you look in my books, the way I like people to look at my books is, let's pretend we're getting ready for camp. You go, done it, oh, not so relevant, yep, no, yeah, oh, camp, a map of camp. Oh, that's a good idea. We can get online and get on Google and get that. Oh, okay, what about how are we getting to camp? So they're like a checklist. Done it. Oh, good point. Not so relevant for this child, right? So my books have most of them like over 500 strategies, because you've got to go through and work out what worked for each child. So what I thought I'd make our next prize is you can win one of my books, one of the ones that's relevant for your age group. So don't put your hand up, but you can win Early Years, Ultimate Guide, Essential Guide to Secondary. I recommend you start this from year 5, or the red or blue teacher assistant book. So Give me a wave if you would like to win one. Donna Three Boys, you definitely are winning one. Kelly Thomas, you are winning. I'm going to choose someone who has Sarah Crook, you're winning. And oh, sorry, I've just lost that name. Irene Jacob, you're winning. And let me go back here. Let me see someone. Oh, sorry. Don't put your hands up because everyone's names disappear on me. Sorry, I keep saying Emily Teape. Emily? Teape? Yeah? Sorry. If I could ask you, I'd ask you how to pronounce that. So, you're all winners. You can choose one of my books. If you're not sure where to find my books, they are in the back of the handout today. So, on this page, have a look while I'm chatting and you can choose which book you want to win. Okay, fantastic. Excellent. And if you're watching the replay, do not worry. You can still win a book. And if you didn't win a course or book, there's going to be a quick thing you can enter to win. Even if you watch today, you can still go in to win later. It's a quick, easy question based on what you've learned today, okay? So do not worry, you can win. So the best way to prepare. Jenny, Jean, the first day of school, what to prepare. Karen, parent over the holidays. Rosalind, using visuals. I'm going to show you lots of ideas to use visuals. So hopefully you can get everyone else on board, and I've got a really good way to get everyone on board at the end. So stay on. I think you're going to love my thought, Robin, for you. So we're going to do a deep dive in now. As I said, I do talk fast, but you can always watch the replay later. So everybody, I would like you just to write down or think for 10 seconds. If you were starting a new job, what would you want to know? So I'm just going to give you 10 seconds to write down. Don't put it in the chat yet. I just want you to write down your own thoughts. If you were starting a new job, what would you want to know? Okay, so I like to do think, share, compare. Can you share in the chat? Look at your list. What is the one most important thing for you? Everyone will have different, and this is what I want you to see. What is the one most important thing? Names, routines, bathroom, how much you're going to get paid, where the toilets are, the expectations, the routine, yes, the timetable. Look how many of you want the bathroom. I love it. Where the parking is. Yes, when I go to schools, and many of you who have had me come to your school, I always like a map. Because like even the school I was in last night to do a PD, they're like, come to gate 1. Well, some schools, even though their address is one street, gate 1 can be anywhere. So I always like go, can I please have a map? So I believe that many of you who wanted to know who, give me a thumbs up, like who you're working with. Who wanted to know the who, the people, the who was in your workplace? Yeah. Who wanted to know? Give me, I'm trying to choose a different reaction so we can, give me a love heart if you wanted to know the what, like what you're doing, what the expectations are. Some of you had that down. Okay. Give me a clap if you wanted to know the how, like how do I get there? How things are going to work, you know? Who wants to know the when? If you wanted to know, give me the, I know that face with your mouth like that. If you wanted to know the when, like what time you're working. Some of you wanted the timetable. Thank you, Jasmine. I just need some sort of face. And last but not least, and this is particularly important, many of us forget for our children on the spectrum, they really want to know the why. So give me any emoji if you agree that we often forget the why. Why do I have to go to work? You know, often my children want to know, why do I have to move teachers? Why do I have to work with a teacher assistant? Why aren't my friends in my classroom? So often we forget the why. And these are social scripts. That's what we use social scripts for. And for any of you starting school next year, got kids starting school next year, or maybe had a bit of a bumpy transition this year, this book by Anna Tallemans and Rhonda, who are both parents, is a whole lot of social scripts, but I love these for starting school. So any early childhood teachers who are on today, I recommend you read these to the whole class. Asking for help in the classroom. Put your hand up to attract the teacher's attention. look towards the teacher, call out in a medium voice. So you might have to practice what a medium voice is. Some of my children struggle to know what a medium voice is. Wait for the teacher to say your name. And then when the teacher has answered your question, say thank you. Okay? Now, you can do it like that, or you can do video modeling, which is one of my favorite ways to do social scripts, which is to video the children actually practicing putting up their hand, waiting for the teacher to call on them. These are important skills. Now, if we make a video, the children can refer back to them. Parents, I recommend these are your bedtime stories moving towards starting school, because so many of my children really don't know these skills. We assume they know them. Getting someone's attention, interrupting, asking someone to play, because a big school is different to a preschool. Now, so often people say to me, but Sue, they know this in our preschool. Yes, but one of the biggest challenges our children have is called generalizing or adapting, moving what they've learned in one environment to another environment. And this is because it can look different. The playground looks different. So I would love you to actually, when you go for your orientations, actually do some of these little skills and take some videos. You're not putting them on YouTube. You're not sharing them with anyone else. They're just a learning tool for our children. So that is the why. And I think so often we forget that's what social scripts do. The other thing Anna has created is this amazing book called I'm Going to School. These are on my website, by the way, if you're wondering where to get them. Now, this is Anna's demo of I'm Going to School, but sometimes I use this every year of children are moving between classrooms and years. So a calendar, when they're going to have their first day. So this is important. And then parents, you're going to cross it off every day, moving towards that first day. A photo of their childcare centre or their school. A map. Some of my children love maps, knowing which way they're going to drive or walk, yes? A photo of how they will get to school. Are they walking, going in the car? A map. Now, this is a problem because so many teachers rearrange the classroom, and that is why I would always invite the children in the day before we start school, when there's not everybody there. It's one of my key strategies. On that professional development day or the week before, if you're setting up your classroom, actually invite the family in when there's not all the energy of everyone else. Year 7's particularly important. Show them where their locker's going to be, because it mightn't be allocated now, but that first day, show them their locker. Walk them to their classroom. Show them their desk, where they're going to sit. Actually let the child with autism explore that space and see where they look comfortable. Get to know them. Honestly, 10 minutes. That's all you need. Just 10 minutes for the child to come in, know where they're going to hang up their bag, practice that routine, maybe video that. Particularly if you don't know the teacher at the end of this year, I think this is invaluable. Now, don't get me going about we can't tell this family the teacher. I get so upset about this. It's not fair on the teacher, the child, or the family not knowing. This child is neurodiverse. This child needs to know. Other children are adaptable. This child is not adaptable in the same way. You're going to cause a lot of stress for that family over the holidays, and I want the child to come back regulated. So for me, I am a very strong advocate to schools. If you don't know who the teacher is, at least let the child know who is going to be in their class, which friends they're going to have, okay? And the other thing I recommend, and the schools I work in, we keep the teacher assistant for the first 2 weeks until our funding's sorted anyway. So we don't need to move all the teacher assistants. So the child doesn't have a new teacher and a new teacher assistant. They keep their angel for the first 2 weeks. So we're not transitioning both at the same time. Game changer. Can I tell you it's a game changer? Particularly if you are a school that has a big change of numbers. I was at a school yesterday that it has big fluctuating numbers, a lot of new immigrant families. So I understand. And also staffing's really hard at the moment. So I understand that. But if you keep the angel, if you keep the 8, they are a strong advocate for this child and know the child. So anyway, I will let my high horse run away. Anyway, in this I'm Going to School. It is a fabulous book with, you can put in photos and lots of wonderful things. I highly recommend you make something like that for the child. You can make your own, but Anna's done all the hard work there. And I've got children who love looking back at it and referring to it, and parents who update that every year. By the way, the same with my student program. I have families who love, it's like really good summary at the end of the year to redo this, and I've done it as a Word doc so you can type in it. But it's amazing when you look back last year what the students couldn't do and what they can do this year. You know, there's so many great changes. So, next question. If you are starting a new job or returning from leave, if your name starts with a, oh, in fact, everybody, tell me, what emotions would you feel? Sorry, sometimes we have got 300 people on. I didn't realize so many people had joined, sorry. But tell me what, nervous, excited, anxious. Look how many people are nervous. Yes, absolutely. Now, I want you to put yourself in the child's shoes. A new job is like being in a new classroom. Even if you have been a teacher somewhere else or a teacher aide somewhere in another school, going to a new school, it's the same job, but it's in a new place. So for some of my children moving to a new teacher, guess what? That teacher might have different rules. That teacher might have a different layout. That teacher might use different language. Like some teachers sing "Everybody Pack Away" in preschool, and in primary school they go, okay, time to go outside. The language changes, you know. Now, if you're starting a new job, look how many of you were anxious. So can you see why I'm saying we need to let our children and families know as much information as possible? But do you agree, if you're returning from leave, you would probably be more anxious than someone that's just moving jobs within a school? Or if you're returning from leave, I know when I went back after I had my children, I had other things I was worried about at home, my babies and their childcare. So actually our emotions vary depending on different stages. And that's why I think that some of the bigger transitions like preschool to primary school, much more bigger emotions. But there's still emotions between classrooms. But moving from primary to secondary, absolutely. However, doesn't matter what the change, the higher your anxiety, the lower your problem solving. So the more we can tell the child, the less they have to problem solve. The more we put in place, the less they have to think about. So what does the student want to know? They often want to know, as I said, who are the students? Who are the staff? Where are the toilets? The drinks? When are the breaks? So when they come for that visit on the first day, or if you're doing transition, I highly recommend you get a timetable. Now, anyone transitioning children to secondary, one of the things I did when I used to transition kids to secondary that was a game changer, I would go to the high school the students were going to and get their diary. Some schools have day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Some have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And whatever school they were going to, I would photocopy the last 2 weeks of term 4, and we would use those as our diary. The kids love it, the whole class. You just do it with the whole class. They absolutely love seeing what this diary is going to look like. But I've got more time in my primary classroom to show the child how to fill that in, what it's going to look like, how the timetable is going to look. Now, most secondary don't have their timetable by the end of the year, and I understand that. But if we can use last year's and look at that as an example and explain this as an example, it might change. But filling in that diary is really, really good. The playground. Now, this is a challenge. So many playgrounds have rules. You're allowed on that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or this on Thursday. So letting the student know that. I love a map of the playground and the uniforms I mentioned. But the big one is, what are their key anxiety? What are the things that can create anxiety for this student, and addressing any of their worries or concerns? Just like you, their biggest thing is going to be anxiety. Those of you who have done my workshops, you know the number one thing we talk about is how to get this child's anxiety down. So important, okay? And the other thing some of my students worry about is, what if my teacher's away? They really worry about that. And that is why, if you ever join me for a workshop, I send you out a social script, what to do if my teacher's away. and it's really helpful. But what's in that also is talking about the child and themselves. So if you're joining me for the live virtuals in November, I'll send you a link to that script so you can share it with the kids. And can I tell you, lots of kids love to know what's going to happen when you're away. Now, next question, get ready on the chat. If you had a new employee coming to work with you in your team, what would you want to know about them? Everybody tell me, don't worry about the letters. Tell me, what would you want to know about them? Their name, how they like to work. Yeah. Their experience. Yes. How they're feeling. Some helpful prior knowledge. Yeah, what do they know? You know, these background info. Absolutely. Absolutely. Their strengths and challenges. Absolutely. Absolutely. These are all so important. So, I believe these are all the things that we have to remember. Teachers want to know about that child, and that's why I've created that information. Okay, next question. I know it's the afternoon, but I love all this. If you were starting a new job, what would you want to know about the people you were working with? So if you're starting a new job, how do you find out about your colleagues? What do you want to know about them? Their names. Yeah. Are they kind? Yes, my children want to know that about their teacher aides and their teachers. Did you know the other kids have already shared that information? Did you know other kids have shared information about teachers? And many of my ASD children don't know that sort of gossip in the school. Don't you agree? Kids know, oh, they're a friendly teacher. Oh, don't break the rules with them. Don't sit outside their office and eat lunch in secondary. They'll tell you off. You know, children remember that. So, be honest, share in the chat. Do you remember hearing that teacher's strict? Oh, you've got that teacher. Watch out. You all remember that. So one of the things with transition is sometimes taking away some of that stigma that children have heard about that teacher, because they might have heard these things and already be more anxious, like they're a really strict teacher. How often do children think the teacher's going to be really strict? They're like, oh, they weren't strict. Give me a yes if you remember the reputation did not match your experience of that student. That actually when you got that teacher, they ended up being one of your favorite teachers. I remember my year 5 teacher. I was petrified of him because I'd heard all these rumors about him. And he was my teacher that helped me fall in love with maths. And I went on to do maths 1 and 2 in Melbourne because he was like the best. And on Fridays, if we'd finished work, we got to play sport. And he was like the best teacher. But was he structured, routine, repetition? Yes. Was he probably strict? Yes. But did I love it? I loved it. I loved it. So it's really important we tell children these things because often they have heard rumors and the parents have too. Yes. So one of the things I also like to do is get the child to introduce themselves to the teacher because I want the teacher to know about them. So again, there's a document called 10 Things About Me, and I don't know where I've put it. I've got too many bits of paper here. But again, it's with all the information I sent for you, and you can download it on your iPad or as a Word document. Oop, wrong one. That's the programming one. Sorry. Oop. Anyway, it is in the information I've sent you. But I love it. I love to put a photo of the child doing something they love. One of my boys loves Bunnings at Bunnings. One of my boys loves rock climbing because that helps the teacher remember. And it's just a really simple, them advocating for themselves. So I highly recommend you do that. Now, teachers, obviously there's lots of things that you want to know. But I think for many of us, the key thing to do is this. It's called reverse transition, and not enough schools do it. What do I mean? Go and visit the child in their current classroom. If they're coming to primary school from preschool, go to the preschool and visit them then. If they're coming to your classroom, go and see them in their current classroom. You can learn more in 10 minutes visiting that classroom than reading 1,000 documents. You're going to notice things about that child. When I go into classrooms, when I go to schools and do visits, I often only need 10 minutes. I learn so much about that student in 10 minutes. I can see, I normally go and look at their tote box. Is it a massive mess? Well, if they're moving to secondary, I'm going to have to teach them how to organise their books, yes? I'll look at their pencil cases. Have they got all the smiggle rubbers that are, interrupting their learning? I'll look at who they're sitting with. I'll watch, can they put their hand up, or do they sit and wait for help? I learned so much in 10 minutes visiting a child in a classroom. Can you say in the chat, yes, if you have ever visited a child in their classroom? And yes, we do. Yay. Okay. I'm teaching to the choir, as they say. But one of the things I think as teachers we really want to know is where to place that child, who their friends are, what accommodations have they needed. But the big one I like to know is, can they ask for help? Because many of my children hit the emergency button when they need help. How does that child ask for help? Some children in the early years might drag you round. Some might come up and tap you. Some children just sit and wait. So think of a student. Can you all tell me in the chat, how do they ask for help? Tell me in the chat, how do they ask for help? How does this child ask for help? Sit and wait. Yeah. Pull arm. Yeah. Taps on the arm. Calls out. Thank you. I missed that one. Yeah. Calls out. Calls out. So we need to know that. And this is where I would start the year off with a routine for that student, that actually having a social script, how to get the teacher's attention. Explaining to them there's 30 children in the class, everybody wants a turn, yes? And one of the things I prefer to do is, like, first week give all the kids 5 Unifix cubes or Lego blocks, and every time they ask a question I take it away so the children can see visually who's getting a turn. And my normal rule is, if you've used all your Lego, no more questions for the rest of the day. Because for some of my children who are visual learners, they don't realise everybody else wants a turn. And I've used that strategy lots of time in upper primary and secondary, and the kids love it, okay? Now, there's some great podcasts that I recommend you listen to. The school I was at yesterday, there was a few of my beautiful podcast listeners. It was so nice to meet them. And one of the lovely ladies, I've forgotten her name, said that she listens while she's doing the cleaning. And I thought, how perfect. What a great way to multitask. Do the cleaning and do a bit of PD in your ears. I love it. Now, I thought we would do another prize. And the reason I'm doing this prize is I didn't write this book, but I wish I had. It's called Behaviour Solutions for Inclusive Classrooms. I call it See a Behaviour, Look It Up. Okay? Secondary, this book's more for you. And parents, home and schools for you. Okay? So, if you would like to win one of those... So again, they're in your handout, and Tanya Smart, one for you. You'll love that. Okay, one sec. Now, 1 second. I'm trying to think who I've already given a prize to. Oh my goodness, I don't want to give two. Just don't put your hand up, guys, because you're moving everyone. SKIDS, Skids, with the grey top on. Can you just wave so I know? Yeah, you've given me the thumbs up. Yes, amazing. And Radke, RADKE, and you can choose one of those. Brooke Appa, APAP, choose one of those. These are amazing books. They are so good. And parents, you can look and go, okay, the child's having difficulty in small group, try it. They are full of so many great ideas. And last one, Audrey King. Is that how I say? Audrey King? Yay, you can choose one too. Fantastic. Now remember, if you missed out, don't worry. There's going to be more prizes if you answer that little question. Okay, support staff. What do we need you to do? Now, Julie, you had the best question about matching staff. And this is so important. And I wish we could always match the children to staff. But so many schools won't know their staff, and it's really hard to match. But that's where I think matching the support staff is the key. Now, I know some children don't have support staff all day, but even if they have that mentor, that friend, that angel with them for 1 hour a day, it can make the world of difference. And I think matching the angel is just as important as matching the teacher. Now, sometimes schools want to change their support staff. The research actually says no. You should be keeping children with the same support staff. And there is nothing wrong with keeping the same support staff for 2 or 3 years. The research, the child does not become dependent on them. That's not actually true at all. There's a lot of myths and misunderstanding around that. And some of you have done the Teacher Assistant Part B course with Dean Beadle. His lived experience was his teacher assistant changed his life. He went from completely disengaged, expelled, suspended, and he had the same teacher assistant for 8 years. She went with him from primary to secondary, and he is the most amazing young man. She didn't go on to university with him. He is perfectly functioning, even though he had an aide for all those years, because he had complex behaviour needs and they had an understanding. So please remember, some of my students do need to keep their aide for a while, particularly if they've got that good match, as Julie mentioned. So angels, the number one thing you need to do is build a relationship with the child. Some children, I wouldn't go straight to work with them if you're new. Actually working with other children, letting them check you out. Some of my children want to hear your voice, observe you. So don't just jump straight in like, I'm working with you this year, especially in secondary. I always work with a few other children before I come to that child. And this is if you're doing a visit now too. I also think you start off learning things about them, their animals, their interests. If you know nothing about Pokemon, don't worry, this kid will tell you everything, okay? But your number one job is to know this child's signs of anxiety. When I have 30 children in the class, I often miss that anxiety. So I would love you to ask the family about the signs of anxiety. How does that look? Those of you who have done my course know I talk through those 3 phases of anxiety, the difference between a behaviour meltdown and a sensory meltdown and a tantrum. Assistants, that's often your job to know that. When I go into schools, teacher assistants are working more and more with behaviour than academics now. Once teacher assistants might have been helping a child with reading, recovery, writing. It's a lot more about behaviour, which is why I'm creating that new behaviour teacher assistant course. But the number one thing I get from aides is teachers have different expectations of you. So teachers, I really want you to think, what is the job description for this teacher assistant? Are they allowed to take the child out if they see the child getting anxious? Are they allowed to take out a small group? Like, what is their job description? Because so many of my angels, I call them angels because when I have a good angel, I have a good year. You know, different teachers have different job descriptions, and many of my assistants get exhausted because the expectations change. So teachers, what do you want for this angel to do with your students? Is it about setting up the tasks and adapting in preparation, or is it about at the time adapting? Is it about helping the child with social skills, or is it about helping the child with academic? And for some of my children, I would say the social and friendships is just as important as the academics. The research says that children actually engage more with social emotional learning. When they're socially engaged and feel connected to their community, makes a world of difference. Oh, one more thing, because I was talking about this yesterday. I had forgotten I hadn't mentioned it for a while. It's really important to start the new year to give this child a high status job, to give them belonging in your classroom. If they don't have friends, if they have a job in your classroom, it makes them feel important. So if they're a really good speller, make them the class speller. If they're good at drawing, make them the class help for drawing. One of my boys loved numbers, and he would actually go to the library and help put all the library books back. But he would always that was learning social skills. Thanks, taking the books back, putting them away. You know, find a way for this child to have a sense of belonging in your classroom. And jobs are a very important part of having belonging in a classroom. But this child might keep the same job for the whole term, whereas other children rotate through the job. So have a think what you could do to help this child feel important part of your classroom early on. And when they come for that visit, maybe that's when you find the job for them, and talk to their parents about what they like doing. I mean, one of my boys loved plugging in the iPads and checking they're all charged. Saved me to remember doing it. One of my little girls who was a little bit OCD loved pushing in all the chairs. So her job was to go around and push in all the chairs. You know, find something that is their interest and their passion to help them feel like a sense of belonging and order in your classroom sometimes. Now, parents, you play a big role in getting your children ready for next year. First of all, sleep. Please don't the night before suddenly start a new sleep routine. Over the holidays, they're up all night. Your big role is to keep them in a routine with sleep, or if it gets mixed up over the holidays, at least a week before, start getting them back in the getting up at the school sleep routine. Give me a yes in the chat, teachers and angels, if you do that. If you're the sort of person the week before you go back, start getting up just that little bit earlier to get your body ready. Okay, routines. Parents, I really want you to follow routines over the holidays. I want you to cross off that calendar, have on there when they're going back to school, important information like who's coming to visit. Use that calendar as a reference over the holidays so they get used to looking at that calendar, because this will help with their anxiety. And if you know any anxiety things, really look at what's working. I need you to keep their anxiety down. Social stories, as I said, they're getting ready for school. Organization, that's a big one. I really want you to label all their books. I highly recommend you buy post-it notes. They are so important for children with ADHD, because then they can put a post-it note in their book instead of a bookmark that'll fall out and get lost. I'm the queen of post-it notes. Do not buy the Kmart ones, buy the proper ones. See, look, you know exactly where to go if there's a post-it note. So showing children how to do those, color coding for secondary, putting in place those things. I talked about the uniform, the calendar. Next one, can you underline this please, parents? Play dates. Actually ensuring your child over the holidays, maybe doing a school holiday program, going on play dates, keeping up their social engagement. If they have 4 or 5 weeks at home without engaging with peers and social, even going to the local park when you're busy is what a school playground is like. Actually keeping up those social engagements. So going to the park to play, maybe having children over for a play date, meeting up in the park, in looking at keeping up social engagement. Because if they go from no social engagement to 500 kids in a school the first day, can you imagine the social overwhelm? I'm not saying it have to be big things, but I personally would be enrolling them in something over the school holidays where they might be doing something they love, like chess, or in Sydney, I've done courses with the film school, NIDA. They actually have great courses for secondary. They do my training because they have many children on the spectrum. They might be learning Python, they might be learning coding, they might be doing Lego Club. There's lots of things, but have a think how you could actually keep them staying socially connected over the break. And the most important thing is to put yourself in the child's shoes. So remember how you would feel starting a new job, what the things you would want to know, and think what is important for that child, because all of you had different things that were important. There's also that lovely visual with lots of tips on there. But I truly believe the more we share, the more we can prepare. And it's all about preparing the child, the staff, the parents, preparing everybody. So I want everybody ready on the chat, please. We've only got 5 minutes to go. So everyone get ready on the chat. I want you ready, okay? Just a bit of fun. So can you tell me, a child in a wheelchair, what do they need to access their preschool? Everybody tell me in the chat, what would a wheelchair need? Okay, child in wheelchair accessing their school, what do they need? Everybody tell me. Oh, still ramps. Okay, same child off to secondary school, what do they need? Everybody tell me in a ramp. What about the parents going to community access, going shopping? What does that wheelchair need? It's still a ramp. I know. But you would be amazed how many people go, oh, but Sue, you know, we did the uniform getting ready for primary school. Why do we need to do that again for secondary? Because the strategies are the same, no matter what age. The wheelchair and the ramp creates access. Having that calendar to tick off, no matter what age, do that. No matter what diversity, these are key visual strategies this child needs. The ramp and the wheelchair create the access. In my experience, people take away the things the child needs. Social scripts are for the whole of life, but they might change what ones they need. Children need this information. So please, no matter what age, you need these things in place. So in my experience, Robin, you were saying I was thinking maybe use that wheelchair and ramp as how do you get people to understand this child needs visuals, yeah? Because the visuals are the ramp. That is what creates access, that schedule, that timetable, having signing, the classroom is a visual, actually how it's set up. So what are 4 key strategies for successful transition no matter what age? No matter what age. I truly believe the things we need are support, 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 support. Support for the child, support for the teacher, support for the teacher assistant, support for the families and carers. That all of us need support so we can support the child. I really believe we can't support children unless we feel supported, so we all have to work together. It takes a community to raise a diverse child, and that's why I'm so thrilled so many of you are on here this afternoon, and all of you can play a role in supporting the child, the family, the staff. So I'd love you to really think how you can help that child. So can everyone share their one takeaway, their one aha moment? Was there one thing you're like, I'm going to do that? Share me one thing you're going to try. Oh, thank you, Heather. The calendar, the support. I love it. I love it. I love it. The shoes. I love it. The reverse transition. The giving them a job, giving them a high status job. I love it. Oripa, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. You wanted to know about transition back from the breaks. Episode 122 is full of tips for you. It's like a whole 40 minutes on tips on transitioning child from mat to table, inside to outside, outside to inside. There are lots of good ideas in there. Now, you've already done today. Well done. Then I recommend download all those cheat sheets, and I'm not trying to overwhelm you. They are time savers. I promise they are time savers. I really hope you can join me for a live virtual workshop. If you know someone who is getting the child next year, can you please let them know about the upcoming workshops? I get so upset when people say to me, I wish I'd had this information last year. I wish I'd had this information before I got the child. And teachers tell me this stuff is helpful for the whole class. So please let people know about that. Oh, sorry, Aripa, I have put that in your handout about the key things for transition and that podcast episode that's full of great tips. So in the warm-up, I asked people whether they were a bush or beach person. Can you just share in the chat, if you chose bush or beach, if you were going somewhere new, a new bush or beach, not a place you knew, what is something you would want to know? Everyone share one thing. If you're going to the Grampians and you've never been, going to Lord Howe Island, you've never been, what would you want to know? Yeah, where it is. You'd want a map. You'd want to know the weather. You'd want to know what it looks like. Yes. Now, I just have to tell you, one of my family spent a lot of time preparing their child for going on holidays. They made a social script, they took pictures, they did everything, they had the calendar, they had the best holiday, but they forgot to tell their little boy he was going home. He thought he was staying there for the rest of his life. Yes, the family just assumed he knew he was going home. Yes? Please don't assume with our children. Don't assume just because they're moving classrooms, they know what's going to happen. This is why it's so important. Everyone goes, we're going on holidays. They need to know when they're coming back, because that family did everything to prepare their son except tell him he was returning. So it's really important we tell our children they are coming back to school next year, what day, if they're starting secondary, are they going half day, full day, are only the year 7s going. The more we prepare these little things, the bigger the difference. So that's a little bit more about the workshops. I really hope you can join me or share, let people know. If you would be kind enough to just scan the QR code and Andrew, maybe if you can pop it in the chat, the evaluation. I would love you over a cuppa or a drink just to send me some feedback. I use that feedback every year. Like I looked at all last year's feedback to change things tonight. I've tried to be a little bit slower this year because everyone says I talk really fast, but I would love some feedback. It really does help me know what to add when I redo webinars, and particularly topics for next year, because I'm starting to think about next year how I can help you. Sometimes I make those into a podcast, sometimes I make them a webinar or a tip sheet. I'm always trying to work out how best to help you. So please let me know anytime, because I always find you might think it's just for you, but my guess is there's 100 other people that need that information. So please, if you do the evaluation, just let me know what other topics you need help with, because I'm always about how can I help you the most. And sometimes I ask those questions on Facebook to get ideas from my community as well, because I'm still learning. I'm still learning new things about our children. So I promised you an hour of power. I have finished exactly at 5 o'clock according to me. Thank you, all of you, for giving up your time. I know how valuable it is. And if you're listening to the replay, thank you for listening or watching the replay. Don't forget to enter to win. You can all still win prizes, and I love giving away prizes for everyone. So thank you, everybody. Have a lovely evening. I'm so glad. Oh, thank you, everyone. Have value. Thank Louise. Thank you so much. Oh, Coop, I love your little face. Oh, who had the dog? What sort of dog? Their school's got a dog. I had it on my questions. I forgot to ask. Oh, can you let me know if you're on here? They might have gone already. Amazing. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. I hope you've got some great tips and strategies to make a difference. Remember, strategies wear out, and not every strategy works for everybody. If you're ready to dive in deeper to more strategies and ideas to make a difference, I'd highly recommend you consider Dr. Tony Attwood or my online courses. For more information, visit my website www.suelarkey.com.au.